you've been in the waiting room. If you hold XLM or HBAR, you know exactly what I mean. The waiting room is not a place, it is a state. It is the specific psychological condition of holding infrastructure that is verifiably, documentably, irrefutably being built into the core of the global financial system and watching the price reflect none of it. The waiting room has a specific texture. It feels like being right about something that nobody else is paying attention to yet. It feels like holding a document that proves everything and not being able to get anyone in the room to read it. October 2026 and first half 2027 are the dates that end the waiting room. Not because the price is guaranteed to move on a schedule, but because the specific operational events that those two dates represent will make it structurally impossible for the 100 plus firms inside the DTCC's tokenization ecosystem to continue, ignoring what XLM and HBAR have already built. The drama does not unfold all at once. It unfolds in two acts, and understanding each act, what actually happens operationally, not narratively, is what separates a holder who is prepared for what is coming from a holder who will be surprised by it when it arrives. Act 1 begins in October 2026, and I want to take you inside it operationally before I tell you what it means for XLM and HBAR. The DTCC's depository trust company has been building toward this moment since December 11, 2025, when the SEC granted a no-action letter allowing DTCC to tokenize a defined set of assets, Russell 1000 stocks, major index ETFs, in U.S. Treasuries. The July 15, 2026 soft launch already processed live production trades with approximately 40 firms: Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, BlackRock, Vanguard, Citadel Securities, State Street, BNP, Paribas, CME Group, Real Securities, real settlement, real production, not a demonstration, not a stress test, a live institutional trade that the Corporate Counsel Network described as demonstrating tokenization production in a breadth of use cases, asset classes, and number of participants. What happens in October is different from July in a specific and consequential way. July was limited to production, a defined set of firms, a defined set of instruments, a controlled environment designed to catch integration issues before broader rollout. October is the full commercial launch, broader participation, expanded volumes, the shift from a curated pilot environment to an open commercial offering where any DTCC member firm that has completed the integration can participate. And the DTCC has over 6,000 member firms globally: broker, dealers, custodians, banks, clearing members, investment managers who now have access to a tokenization service from the entity that custodies over $114 trillion in securities. Here is what happens operationally inside those member firms in the weeks immediately before and after the October launch. And I want to be specific about this because the operational reality is where the drama actually lives, not in a press release, but in the technology and compliance departments of the firms that are connecting to this system. Every firm that wants to participate in the DTCC's tokenization service must complete a technical integration. They must wire their internal systems, their position management systems, their settlement workflows, their risk management infrastructure into the DTCC's tokenization platform. That integration requires engineering resources, compliance review, legal sign-off, and technology infrastructure that did not previously exist inside their systems. Before we get back into today's video, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I truly appreciate every single one of you for your support, your likes, your comments, and for sticking with the channel. It really does mean a lot, and it helps this channel continue to grow. Now, it's time to give a shout out to our subscriber of the day, Mark Badmofo. Thank you so much for subscribing, Mark. I really appreciate your support, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. If you're enjoying this kind of content and haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel, and I'd love to have you along for the ride. All right, with that said, let's get back to today's topic. The July soft launch gave approximately 40 firms a compressed timeline to complete that integration in a controlled environment. The October full commercial launch opens that integration pathway to the remaining 6,000 plus member firms. Now here is the critical operational dynamic that produces the cascade. Every firm that completes the integration and begins using the DTCC's tokenization service immediately gains something that firms who have not integrated do not have: access to 24/7 settlement, access to atomic delivery versus cash, the simultaneous exchange of securities in cash without the counterparty risk that exists in traditional T1 or T2 settlement, access to programmable securities, the ability to embed corporate actions, coupon payments, and dividend distributions directly into the token, and access to collateral mobility, the ability to use tokenized securities as real-time collateral across multiple counterparties simultaneously without the pre-posting requirements that tie up capital in traditional markets. That last capability, real-time collateral mobility, is the one that produces the most immediate and most consequential competitive pressure on firms that have not integrated, because collateral efficiency is not an abstract benefit. It is a measurable dollar per day cost for every firm that cannot move collateral in real time versus every firm that can in a 4 or 5% interest rate environment. The environment that Bank of America's 3-rate hike forecast is pointing toward for the second half of 2026. Every basis point of collateral efficiency has a real dollar value. A firm that can mobilize tokenized collateral instantly across counterparties holds less idle capital than a firm that cannot. And in a high-rate environment, less idle capital is a directly measurable competitive advantage. This is the mechanism that drives October's cascade. Not curiosity about blockchain, not enthusiasm about tokenization as a concept, pure competitive pressure. The first 40 firms who completed the July integration and who go full production in October immediately have a collateral efficiency advantage over every firm that is not. And the institutional market for broker-dealers, custodians, and clearing members is one of the most competitive environments on earth. Competitive advantages that produce measurable cost differences do not stay proprietary for long. The second and third wave of member firms accelerate their own integrations in the weeks after October, not because they're excited about blockchain, but because their risk committees are looking at the collateral efficiency data from the firms who integrated early and concluding that the cost of not integrating is now higher than the cost of integrating. This is what Act 1 actually looks like from inside the institutions. Not a single dramatic announcement, a competitive pressure cascade that spreads through the DTCC member firms' ecosystem in the weeks and months following the October full commercial launch. And the cascade has a specific and documented endpoint because the DTCC is not just running a private chain tokenization service in October. It's simultaneously building toward the Stellar integration that its own press release, co-signed with Stellar Development Foundation, placed in the first half of 2027. Now, for HBAR in Act 1, and I want to address this directly because the HBAR connection to the October launch is different from the XLM connection, and most of the community has not properly separated them. The HBAR connection to the DTCC, as of the time of recording, is the patent US 2025-0078065A1, which names Hedera as a compatible network for DTCC's tokenization infrastructure. And Project Hyro, HBR's codebase steward, was physically present at the July 15th production trades. But HBR is not in the DTCC's confirmed multi-chain integration, the way XLM is. XLM has a co-signed press release, HBR has a patent reference, and a code-based steward presence. That distinction matters. And here's what it means operationally for HBR in Act 1. The October full commercial launch does not produce a direct HBR integration event. What it produces is a proof of concept event at scale. The October launch demonstrates to every DTCC member, the firm, that tokenized security settlement on blockchain infrastructure is operationally viable, legally clear under the SEC no action letter, and competitively necessary. It legitimizes the entire category of public blockchain settlement infrastructure at the institutional level. And Project Hyro, HBR's codebase steward, was physically present at the July 15th production trades. The Act 1 consequence for HBR is not a direct demand event for XLM, the way the Act 2 Stellar integration will be. It's a legitimization event for the category of enterprise-grade public blockchain settlement infrastructure that HBR is the most institutionally validated example of. Every member firm that completes its DTCC integration in October and begins using tokenized settlement on blockchain infrastructure becomes a more educated evaluator of HBR's separate and complementary value proposition. The RKC's and Lloyd's Banking Group tokenized collateral trades, the UTLA institutional custody integration, the 15 pending ETF filings, the Reserve Bank of Australia Project Acacia participation. The October DTCC full launch does not directly move HBR. It moves the institutional readiness of the audience that HBR's own case is being made to. Now, Act 2, first half, 2027. And this is where the XLM drama becomes specific and operational in a way that the waiting room has been holding towards. In the first half, 2027, DTC tokenized assets become available on the Stellar network. This is confirmed in the co-signed DTCC and Stellar Development Foundation press release for May 27, 2026. Let me be precise what that means operationally, because the Daily Coin analysis correctly identified that volume alone does not translate directly to XLM demand at low fee levels. The mechanism is more specific than volume. It is account creation and reserve requirements. Here's what happens inside a DTCC member firm when they connect to the Stellar integration in first half 2027. Their technology team provisions a Stellar network account for the firm's tokenization operations. That account requires a minimum base reserve, currently 1 XLM, plus additional XLM reserves for each sub-entry, each trust line for each tokenized asset class they want to hold, each offer they want to place in Stellar's DEX, each data entry in their account. A typical institutional participant in the DTCC's tokenization ecosystem, holding Russell 1000 stocks, ETFs, and U.S. Treasuries in tokenized form, is likely to have 10 to 20 sub-entries in their Stellar account at 0.5 XLM per sub-entry, that is 6 to 11 XLM per account, in mandatory institutional reserve demand at minimum. In practice, well-managed institutional accounts carry additional buffer reserves. 100 member firms, each creating 5 institutional Stellar accounts for different asset classes, different counterparty relationships, different regulatory jurisdictions, with 15 XLM in average reserves per account. That is 100 firms times 5 accounts times 15 XLM equals 7,500 XLM in mandatory institutional reserve demand. From the initial DTCC Stellar integration participant base alone, at current prices of 18 cents to 19 cents, that is approximately $1,300 to $1,400 in total reserve demand from the first wave. The fee demand is similarly modest at current volumes. Stellar's transaction fee is 100 struts per operation. At 1 million daily operations from DTCC-related Stellar activity, the daily fee demand is 100 XLM, approximately $19 at current prices. I am presenting these numbers honestly because the daily coin analysis was right. The direct operational demand from fees and reserves at the initial integration scale is not a price-moving event on its own. The fee and reserve mechanics matter at scale, at 100 million daily operations. The fee demand is 10,000 XLM daily, and if the DTCC integration drives comparable activity to what SWIFT handles for cross-border messaging, the reserve and collateral mechanics become genuinely significant. But at the initial first half 2027 integration scale, the direct fee and reserve demand is measurable but not extraordinary. What is extraordinary is the signal value of the integration, and this is where the drama breakdown produces its most consequential observation. When DTC tokenized assets become available on Stellar in first half 2027, when a Goldman Sachs trader can for the first time hold a DTC tokenized US Treasury in a Stellar wallet and use it as collateral in a Stellar native transaction, the market is confronted with an empirical fact that it cannot price from a distance. The world's largest securities depository is settling on Stellar's public blockchain. Not on Ethereum, not on Solana, on Stellar. At that moment, the market cap of XLM, the native settlement token of that network, the asset whose mandatory reserve requirement and fee structure makes it the fuel of every DTC tokenized asset transaction on Stellar, has to reprice towards something more consistent with what a public settlement network used by the DTCC for real production trades is actually worth. That repricing is not driven primarily by the direct fee and reserve demand. It is driven by the comparable analysis that every institutional allocated runs when an asset transitions from speculative infrastructure play to confirmed production settlement layer for a $100 trillion institution. The comparable analysis, Broadridge at $22 billion, Clearstream at $10, minus $15 billion, equivalent enterprise value, FIS at $45 billion, has not changed. What changes in first half 2027 is the probability that those comparables apply to XLM. The transition from approximately zero probability in the market's current pricing to a confirmed probability, because the DTCC said so in a co-signed press release and then proved it with live production trades. Now the HBAR Act 2 consequence, and this is the most speculative but also the most consequential part of the drama for HBAR holders specifically. The first half 2027 DTCC Stellar integration produces something for HBAR that is not in any confirmed announcement. It produces a demand for the next network. The DTCC's multi-chain strategy is explicitly multi-chain. Their own announcement said they intend to integrate multiple L1 and L2 networks to ensure interoperability and open access. Stellar is first, but the strategy architecture implies more to follow. And the publicly available patent that names Hedera as a compatible network, combined with Project Hyro's presence at the July 15th production, trades positions HBAR as the most specifically documented candidate for the next integration after Stellar. The DTCC does not announce its multi-chain integration partners simultaneously. They announce them sequentially. Stellar was announced in May 2026 for first half 2027 delivery. If the Stellar integration performs successfully, and the operational case for it performing successfully is built on 5 years of Franklin Templeton Benjium compounding to nearly $2 billion on a stablecoin supply reaching $877 million on a TVL at record $244 million. On the demonstrated technical capability of Stellar's settlement infrastructure across multiple verified institutional use cases, the next multi-chain announcement from DTCC points at the second confirmed compatible network from their patent. Documentation. Project HBAR, sitting inside the Linux Foundation, HBAR's SEC and CFTC digital commodity classification from March 2026, the Utila institutional custody integration, the Archax and Lloyd's banking group tokenized collateral trades, demonstrating that HBAR can settle regulated institutional assets in production, the 15 pending ETF filings creating a regulated access channel for institutional capital. These are not random data points. They are the specific institutional credentialing requirements that the DTCC's multi-chain evaluation process would look for a second network partner after Stellar. The Act 2 drama for HBR, therefore, is not what happens when the Stellar integration activates. It is what happens in the weeks after the Stellar integration activates successfully and the DTCC's multi-chain team begins its next network evaluation, with Project Hero already in the room and the patent already naming Hedera as compatible. The waiting room does not end at the same time for XLM and HBR. For XLM, it ends when DTC tokenized assets go live on Stellar in first half 2027, and the market reprices a $6 billion asset toward what a DTCC settlement network should be worth. For HBR, it ends when the Stellar integration successfully demonstrates multi-chain viability and the attention of every DTC member firm that just completed a Stellar integration turns towards the question of which network comes next. 2 acts, 2 mechanisms, 2 different timelines. Act 1. In October, the DTCC full commercial launch on private chains legitimizing the institutional blockchain settlement category and positioning HBR's audience. Act 2. In first half 2027, the Stellar integration activating and forcing an XLM market re-rating toward DTCC settlement network comparables. The drama is not coming. It has already started. The July 15th production trades were the curtain rising. October is the end of Act 1. First half 2027 is where Act 2 lands. And the audience sitting in the waiting room, the holders who understood the thesis before the market priced it, are the ones who will be inside the theater when the last second act begins. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing here constitutes financial, legal, or investment advice. Always do your own research and consult qualified professionals before making any financial decisions. If this video showed you the operational mechanics of what actually happens inside the DTCC member firms in October and what the Stellar integration in first half 2027 actually produces for XLM demand, and if it changed how you are reading the waiting room you've been sitting in, please smash that like button, because the holders who understand Act 1 and Act 2 before they happen are the ones who are positioned for both. The like puts this in front of them. Subscribe, because this channel builds the operational drama breakdown that the price is not yet reflected. The waiting room ends. The mechanism is documented. This channel shows you the mechanism before the market prices. Here is the question I want. In the comments, 2 acts, 2 mechanisms, 2 different timelines. Act 1 in October, the DTCC full commercial launch on private chains, legitimizing the institutional blockchain settlement category, and positioning HBR's audience. Act 2 in first half 2027, the Stellar integration, activating and forcing an XLM market cap re-rating toward DTCC settlement network comparables. Which act do you think produces the more visible price event or the assets you hold? And what is the specific mechanism in that act that makes it more consequential than the other? Make your case, not which timeline you prefer. The operational argument for which event hits harder when it arrives. Have a great day. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to join my free Telegram community with the link on my channel where I post my daily crypto experience and arbitrage opportunities you can't get anywhere else. This is XRP Hobart signing off.